So welcome to the show, Roger Spur from Mudfossil University. Thank you so much for coming on our show today. You have a great YouTube following, over 100,000 followers on YouTube. Lots of people who listen to our show have been emailing us, asking us to bring you on the show. We've talked a little bit about this, Luke. We brought Michael Tellinger on the show one time, and he showed us some mud fossils, and he kind of dazzled us. That was episode like 8 or 9.
Yeah, early. Those were baby days, and those are baby blurry days.
Baby blurry days, but the mud fossils he showed us were not babies. They were giant. So welcome to the show, Roger. We have a tradition on our show, and we ask everyone right out of the gate, what are your thoughts on Bigfoot? Do you have any thoughts on that creature?
To be perfectly honest with you, I haven't seen any substance, material evidence today, but I can tell you one thing, there was absolutely enormous giants, and I see no reason that they wouldn't be living in some of these cavities and so forth underneath the earth. Because my feeling is, with the size of the giants that I will show you, I have right here on my property, and they've been DNA tested. There's no way to deny it. You could not live around these. It was over 150 feet tall, at least minimum.
Wow. As
a normal human being, I also have on my property normal sized humans that were living exactly at the same time. They all died in the Great Flood, is my feeling, because that's why I call them mud fossils. And the reason they died in the Great Flood, if you ever read Velikovsky, he talks about 3,500 years ago, 1500 BC, in every single place on earth, every culture, not a single one is different. They all have the same catastrophe story, where the earth was wrenched. It was a global flood. And this was all written in these ancient documents. Velikovsky was a very, very accomplished researcher. And he was also a contemporary Einstein. So they had to address him. They just don't address. They just let me mumble out in the woods. But Velikovsky, they had to confront him. He wrote a book called Worlds in Collision. Now, a lot of people don't know about Velikovsky because he was so destroyed. I wrote a book about him and my experiences as well. That goes back 5-6 years ago. Now, his book was called Worlds in Collision, where Venus almost hit Earth, and it collided with our atmosphere so violently that it literally combusted the atmosphere, and the oceans boiled, and there was floods everywhere on the earth. And the Quran says the same thing, Allah boiled the oceans. And it's just, when I saw that, I studied Velikovsky a lot, but that really was, I believe, how all of these things became like parboiled. Because I mean it perfectly, just like they were alive yesterday. And the blood in them is still fresh and everything. I mean, blood coming right out of them.
The rocks?
Blood gushing out of them.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Wow. So do you think Bigfoot, the creature Bigfoot, are you saying it's related to the giants? Or
for sure. Oh, absolutely. I have well, you never saw the no-toes then, right? Have you ever seen the no-toes?
No.
We got those. That's probably your Bigfoot. I could show you those. I have all that stuff too.
Awesome. We've dove into this topic before on our show, and right out of the gate, you said you think they're 150 foot tall. It seems like the mud fossils are people who are into the mud fossil part of this research and not just the historical accounts. When they see the evidence, Luke, they have this tendency to say that these giants, ancient giants, were much bigger. And we have accounts that people dug up on the archives of newspapers saying they're 30 foot tall, but you're saying 4 or 5 times that.
30 feet tall. That's a puppy. There's giants wouldn't even know that they were alive next to them. I'm telling you, the earth is made of giants.
Wow.
There's no question about it. Let me show you. Let me go on my screen, and I'll show you some of the stuff, if that's all right.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Puppies. I like it.
I was just doing a thing on muscles and so forth, because now here's one of my giants, and that's a fingertip from it. All right, it's about 3 feet long from the front of the fingertip to the back. Now this is the fingernail, All right, that's the little bumper pad where the next bone bumps up against. Now, I broke a piece off of this to get the fingerprint, and then I drilled up inside into an artery. Now, like I say, this is, and of course, it's solid stone now, and the damn thing weighs about, I don't know what it weighs, but it's big and it's heavy. Now, that's the fingertip, the nail side. Now, here's the fingerprint side. Still like yours.
Wow.
You see him?
Yeah.
My finger, my thumb is one width of like just a finger ridge on your finger. Now, and this is DNA tested, and the quality of the DNA, they said, was unbelievably excellent. I mean, the blood just gushes out of these things. And I mean, they were like sealed somehow and all I could think of it was a flood. Well, I know it was a flood because the other stuff, most of the stuff is flat as a pancake because it was mushy and settled and just became flat like a pancake. It falls right off. You see the way this peels off right here? Exactly the same thing on my fingertip, identical. When I smacked it with the hammer, it peeled off right here. It's about maybe 3/4 of an inch thick. And that was what the thickness of the skin was on this guy. I have another one. This, like I said, that's DNA tested.
How do you extract DNA from the stone? Just curious, like with the...
You drill right into the artery. Well, the arteries are still loaded with blood. I'll show you some more with the blood.
Yeah,
actually.
okay.
Yeah. I got a ton of stuff. Now, this is a palm from a left hand. And it also, again, DNA tested. And if you look, you see the grip skin here peeling off the same way? This is, and if you put your hand out, your left hand, put it out in front of you and splay it out hard, you'll see you have this tendon running down. And of course, your bumper pad. It's like somebody puttied it, you know?
Yeah.
And then I got the fingers and knuckles. This is when I first took it out of, I first found it. Most of the stuff I really didn't have to dig up hardly anything. This did get dug up because I added an addition to my house and they had to dig a little foundation. This just came up.
How many giants do you think were on the Earth at that point? I mean, if these things are this big, is the Earth completely different? Yeah. What kind of population do you think? Because obviously we get into some of the smaller guys and trying to just set up some sort of framework of what the Earth looked like. I mean, I'm guessing this is like the Book of Enoch.
Here's the story, Nick. As it was told in ancient texts, that giants were offspring of the daughters of man and the sons of God and so forth. Yeah. And they were, I cannot come to any other conclusion other than that is absolutely got to be true. And there was gods here, not just one, but multitudes of them. And apparently there was 600 of them that were given the duty to keep track of us and help us to evolve and to make a nice place, and everything was wonderful. And at that particular time, everything was wonderful. They said that was the golden age and nobody even had to work. Everything was just free. Everybody loved each other. Everybody was nice. And then it's got to be where it went into the Silver Age and then so forth. And each one of those ages is not like a medal. It's a way of life and how it deteriorated and became corrupt. And anyway, the giants were offspring of what they shouldn't have done. They came down and mated with these women. But the women back then were giants too. I mean, they were huge giants, just like everybody else. And when it first started, Adam and Eve supposedly were about 90 feet tall. And the gods, it appears to me, they could take on virtually any form they wanted. And they must have come down and had their way with the women, but the DNA didn't congeal correct. And they grew into enormous giants. Enoch said they were 3,000 ells tall. And that equates to about 2.5 miles. And that's not off. That's not really off. I'm not kidding you. It's not off at all.
Well, we've heard this before. We had Michael Tellinger came on and told us he's got, okay. Yeah. He was showing us some mud fossils that were like the size of cars. There's just this giant discrepancy between people who say, they didn't get bigger than 10, 12 feet. And then you have these channels that are saying, these things are giant. Here's the proof of them. We've gone into the history of giants a lot on our show, so we don't need to like backtrack a lot there of where they came from. It's just people who have the hard science and the evidence of looking at the fossils have a completely different understanding of how enormous these things were versus people who read the written history.
They have a mindset that they cannot change. And when you see the evidence, well, here's the deal. Well,
yeah, let's see some of this.
Let me just show you a foot. And this is, you can go find this, it's on the web. Well, here's a giant footprint.
Wow.
That's a town. That's a footprint. And it really is. And they had the kids with them because there's little ones next to it too.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, wouldn't their heads be out of the atmosphere if they're that big?
I can't account for any of this. Well, you don't know about the dragon either, do you?
I seen that we posted a dragon eye.
Oh, that's nothing. I'll show you the dragon. We'll go on Google Earth. It'll blow you right out of your mind. I'm telling you right now, all of this stuff was written too. When you see this is the guy's foot. He's got the little kids with him and they were playing in the mud. There's a foot too. You see these people in front of it?
Oh my gosh, look at the scale of that.
Now, you were asking about Bigfoot. Let me show you some Bigfoot stuff. Because I got that too. You want it? We got it, brother.
I love it.
All right, here we go. Let me bring it down. And I get Tish, my friend Tish has a ton of stuff too. And she sent me some of hers. I have, well, here's the leg. You see that? That's a leg. Now that was constructed by somebody. That is not the way, and these are springs in here. They didn't have tendons. They had springs.
Wow.
And that is a leg coming down and it's bolted with these bolts. And it's pretty big. Now let me show you the rest of, hold on. All right, here's the no toes. And we have them absolutely enormous. This is one here I have in my shop. I found out here in my yard. And they have the toes built into the feet. But other than that, they're identical to our feet. And they have a tibia and a fibia. And here's one from Tish's, the same thing. The fibias fall off the side part because there's no anchor to it. And the main one comes down. And hers are all eroded. Now look at this. That's the back, the calcaneus, they call it. And there's the tendon that runs up, which would attach to the bone. You see it?
Mm-hmm.
This is springs in here. These don't have tendons. They have springs. And I figured out how the spring works. It loads up this way. Let me give you a better picture. All right, here's the foot. There's the heel. You see it?
Mm-hmm.
There's that strap that runs up from the heel to where the bone would sit in this cradle. And that strap would run up to that bone to anchor it to the bone. All right, making sense to you?
Kind of.
All right, well, the bone would come down from your leg
Mm-hmm.
and sit in this cradle. This strap holds the bone from here up to so that your foot can flop around and the strap holds it in. All right, these are springs inside the foot. So what I'm getting at is somebody made this. This is manufactured. This is manufactured bioengineered. Who did it? I have no clue. But you see this little latch and there's springs that run around here. It's
Is that in all the giant fossil feet you find?
no, they come all different ways. I mean, just it's incredible the variety. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal. Let me see something here.
I mean, some of these are so big. I mean, how could the earth even support that many giant beasts?
Well, okay, let me show you something that will knock you out again, right out of your socks. Here goes. Let's go to Google Earth. This is a killer. If you got a helmet, you want to put it on just in case you want to keep your brain inside your skull. What did they say about dragons? Is there any culture that didn't talk about it? No. Every single culture on the face of the planet talks about dragons. Well, maybe they existed and maybe they were pretty big. Maybe they were like this one right here. This is attacking this giant fish. You see the giant fish?
Oh,
See it?
yeah.
Yeah.
There's all the scales, and there's his fin. Well, this gigantic dragon was trying to kill him. You see the dragon?
Let's see the dragon.
He's spitting all this stuff out to try to kill that fish. Look at the stuff he spit out. And all that went down on top of that gigantic fish and ate into its vital flesh. You see it right up here? That came out of the dragon. Now you're gonna say, oh, Roger, that can't be a dragon. Oh, it's too big. Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Let's see if we can prove one way or the other. I'm saying this was actually body flesh that has been caustically destroyed. And this is body flesh of a fish that is vital and pink and is actually good. So that's my claim, is that the attack occurred. All right, who was the attackee? Right there. And his name is Typhon. And Typhon was the offspring of Hera. And Hera was the wife of Zeus. Now, here's what happened. This dragon right here spit out right out of his throat, right out of here, all that nasty stuff. And it has all that fluty stuff you see in the parades over in China. You see all that fluty stuff going down his side?
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's his throat. It goes all the way down. And they call it the Draco. The Draco, it was at one time called the Draco River, Dragon River. Now, are there dragon scales? Yes, there are. They're all down running this whole throat. You see the dragon scales?
Ew, that's wild looking.
Now, yeah. In between each one of these is a plate so he could bend his throat. But this is very, very tough scales. Tough, tough, tough. And in his throat is running right down here. Now, it runs down, 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 down. And you have all this fluty stuff is on the side of his throat going down. And then you get right to here. And you see this, and you say, whoa, Roger, what is that? I said, well, to me, it looks like somebody slashed that sucker's throat. And he did right there. And it says that Zeus got upset with, well, Typhon was destroying the earth. And Zeus said, this, I'm done, and cut his throat with his great and mighty sword. And that was what was written. And there it is right there. That is bodily fluids running out in the desert. All this black and red stuff is what they call ferrous oxides. And they come out of the red and black blood, because red blood is your artery blood. Black blood is the vein blood. It has 2 oxygens. The red blood had 3 oxygens. And that's why you see all this. This is all runoff. If you ever see a dead guy that was laying around for a week or so, it's just this exact same stuff. It just leaks out of it.
So Roger, did this happen this happened like just right before the flood, and then the compounding of the flood and the mud and the water being of the earth just preserved this?
That's a good question. They're on the surface of the earth. They're on everything I have is on the surface. I didn't have to dig for anything.
Sure.
Everything I have was on the surface. It all happened. Velikovsky says 3,500 years ago. It was 1500 BC was when the great catastrophe happened, the cataclysm. And the earth, oceans boiled, the earth stood still. That was all written. Mm-hmm. The oceans boiled. From the depths of the ocean, the actual fabric of the earth contorted so terribly that the depths boiled of the oceans. It was so crushed from the impact of Venus that almost hit us, and it did hit Mars and killed everything on Mars. Mars also is a living creature planet.
So we talked to Tim Alberino about that a little bit, Luke.
Yeah, we did.
He said it was called Edom.
Well,
You know, that's a whole nother conversation.
yeah, they were all gods, and they all had a name. And if you look up the hierarchy of the gods, it's absolutely phenomenal. And they all had monsters, and they all gave off dragons. This dragon, you know, runs, this is his head. You see where I'm circling right now is his head.
Yeah.
This just goes down to his body. This is his body. These are the legs. This is an avian creature. I went all the way, and the cloaca is right here. They're living in the cloaca. They have a city built in here where the poop is. See it?
What a place! The city builders they weren't thinking.
You're never gonna guess what Washington D.C. is. It's the same thing.
This is not. There's a beautiful metaphor in there somewhere.
Well, yeah, no, there's something serious going on here that nobody's ever considered, my brothers. That's coming out of there is the cloaca, and that's an avian creature, just like the one on the East Coast.
Well, I mean, just to push back a little bit, you know, like how can these things are massive? They're huge. How could there be a species that could survive on a planet so small if these things are so big?
Excellent question. I have no answer. I am a material scientist. Yeah. I show what I can show, and I prove what I can prove. And this is basically, as far as I'm concerned, if you miss this as being a dragon,
just get as weird as you can get as weird as you want on Blurry Creatures. So,
yeah, well, it's just the problem is when you step outside of the box, the people that have made their living making statements in academia or even in the alternative sciences, I found they don't like it either. When all of a sudden they say, well, here, let me give you an example. Let's take petrol. Because I'm telling you, the entire world is nothing but creatures. Let's take petrol.
That's what we like. That's our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Let's talk as many creatures as you want.
Yeah, well, here, I'm going to show you Petra, and I'm going to show you what a sarcomere is. You ever heard of a sarcomere before?
No.
No. It's muscle fibers.
Okay.
All
yeah,
right.
I mean, I see that a lot in some of the channels people post of, like, you know, the red desert and places in Arizona where it looks like muscle fibers going through the.
Oh, it definitely is muscle fibers.
And it looks like giant muscle fibers.
Yeah, well, it is. And I have them here. I have all this. That's all muscle fibers. It didn't erode like that and, you know, line up this way and that way. Hell no. That is exactly the way muscles connect, and you have what they call loose connective tissue running between muscle fibers, and they lock together and they pull and stretch. This red stuff down here is all the eroded, bloody, fleshy material from inside.
Hey, Roger, for our listeners, can you talk real quick about mud fossils, like the start, like how you hypothesize they're made and how this happened? Because I know that there are probably some of our listeners that don't completely understand or are not familiar with the idea of mud fossils, because as we're going through this, until you see what you're happening, but the idea of how these are made and how you hypothesize that happened, because I think that'd be some good requisite, even though we're kind of into this already. Even I'm interested in hearing about
yeah, I can absolutely enlighten you on that. And this is the other thing. I'm deep into chemistry and atomic physics and all that stuff, which is nothing more than bonding of molecules and how they become stable. Mm-hmm. And how did they become stable? How the hell would this stuff be stabilized? It was supposed to rot, and bacteria eats and everything. And well, what happened was it was this great global boiling flood that parboiled all these creatures. It said there was giants in the earth in those days. And then after that, when the sons of God went into daughters of men, then there was just absolutely huge giants again. But the giants in the earth as was written in all the ancient texts, were the gods. The ocean was Oceanus or Poseidon. They had all kind of different names for these things, and they could literally turn people into planets, and I mean everything. If you read Ovid, Hesiod, these were the earliest texts ever written. And they were dictated to them dictated to Hesiod by the daughters of Zeus. Now, let me show you something here. You see what you're looking at? This is a sarcomere. And this is a electron microscope. So we're just barely seeing the fibers. And then this is a constricted fiber. Now, these are what's in muscles, and this is so tiny. Like I say, it's an electron microscope. Now, let me see if I can show you some other ones. These are sarcomeres, not in an electron microscope, just showing you these blocks. Now, don't forget, the one I really want you to remember is this one right here. All right, you see these dark, and then you see the white, you see the dark and the white, and then when they pull together, they pinch together. That's how a muscle works. They're elongated here and they're pinched together here. You making sense to you?
Yeah.
You see the blockiness between them? You see the edges in between them, and you see one in the center? Don't forget white, black, blocky. White, black, and blocky. Now, let's look at Petra. All right, let me show you something. You remember what I showed you before? This is all carved out of flesh when it was wet.
Yeah.
When it was wet, they carved this out of flesh. And guess what a sarcomere is? There it is right there. Blocky little sarcomere.
Wow.
That's how big these creatures were. That's in a microscopic electron microscope to see this sarcomere. Remember I told you the dark, the white, the blocky thing. You see it here? They had to cut little holes in here to let out all the moisture from the blood. And they just cut this like it was mud. And this happened everywhere on Earth. And they had machines here too, big machines. Now, they cut this, and I can prove this is muscle inside here too. So don't forget, this is muscle fibers. These are the sarcomeres I just showed you. Now, inside of Petra, in the treasury, is this.
How do they cut it wet if it's supposed to?
Well, it was drying out after the flood. That's why there's handprints in the walls, and they used, they made all these walls in Peru out of this stuff too. I'll show you that. You see this here? This is all flesh. Inside the pet, they just carved it out when it was wet, and it was not a big deal to do it. Let me show you something at down in Bolivia and Peru. All right, here's something that should get you. Explain that to me. All right, now, this is down in, I think this one's in Bolivia. There's a bunch of them down there of the same machine. This was a machine, obviously. You could see the tire tracks in here, but they're not tire tracks. This must have been dropped from the sky. It sunk into this wet, this is a tendon. It's a tendon from a giant creature.
Wow.
And what they did was they drove up on here, something dropped it in, they anchored it in up above here with some kind of a wedge. And then they cut these slabs over here and transported them to make the walls. And that's what they made the walls out of. Here's another place. Here's another one of that same machine
Like
somewhere else. I
Saxon
think it's in Bolivia or somewhere. No, it might be Bulgaria, Bolivia, I'm not sure. Here's what the walls were made of down there. These are made out of tendons. Now, this particular one, they use some bone. That's a piece of bone. You see it right there? Is this
Wow.
making sense to you at all?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it totally does. It's just, you have to kind of ask yourself all these other previous questions before you can look at all this stuff. I mean, I think because we've been 70 some odd episodes into our podcast, we're we're well aware of the giants. It's just
puts a whole new light on it.
well, no, I mean, we we brought on Michael Tellinger earlier on the show, and so he opened my mind at the fact that they could have been these, like just like the Book of Enoch describes them, they could have been that big. I mean, obviously, in numbers, it says in the land of Canaan, they were as big as cedar trees, so 30-footers. So it's just the academics are very quick to say that they couldn't have gotten as big as the mud fossil community says they can. So because I don't look at mud fossils every day, I guess what I'm saying is I can believe anything, but I'm just trying to I'm trying to get my brain to catch up to the belief of like, sure, why couldn't they have been that big? I don't know. There's no reason why they couldn't have been. It's more just how my thought just is how the earth could support creatures of this size. And if it happened so quickly, maybe these things grew at an insane rate and it didn't, and it,
well,
the cataclysm came.
The thing is, I don't think they supported them for very long. I think it was a very quick, as soon as they had the offspring, there's a chart of all of the monsters that were given off, and they were absolute totally monsters. 100 hands, 50 heads, snakes, dragons,
like
serpents.
Medusa type of creatures.
Exactly, 100%.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, some of those weird creatures that we do hear about that just seem so outside of imagination almost. You're saying that are there mud fossils of those creatures?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any pictures?
You just saw the dragon. Yeah,
I mean, all the.
Can you buy that? Nate, let me interrogate you now.
Sure, go for it.
All right, now you saw the dragon.
Yeah.
All right, what do you make of that dragon?
I can see the dragon, but then there's that term where when you can see faces in objects, inanimate objects. Can't remember the word.
Pareidolia.
Yeah. How much of that is happening?
All right, let's talk about what you can accept in your mind.
Yeah.
Now, look at this mountain range. What do you see? Did you see a normal mountain range?
It almost looks like shark teeth, but scales.
Yeah, it's right. Now, what do you see up here if you look around the nose and up around the head and his red flaming eye that they talk about? And all of this stuff here coming out, spitting out to attack the fish. And what do you think about the fish? Can you see a fish there?
I can see a fish. I definitely can. I guess it's just, to me, it feels like the earth is, let's say, at the inside of a car. You got a van. And how many of these creatures can you put inside of that car?
I don't know. Let's see how many you can. Let's take a look at the feathered serpent, who happens to be the east coast of the United States. And he is exactly identical to Quetzalcoatl. There he is right there, all the way up the east coast. You see the feathers coming off his head? That's what Quetzalcoatl was. He was exactly this serpent. And here he is spitting his stuff out into the Gulf. Now, you say, oh, Roger, come on, that's just something. Well, let's just look at it where his feathers are. It runs all the way up the East Coast. You see this? All the way up the East Coast to Canada. And then you say, well, what is this? And I say, well, those are feathers. And you say, no, those have to be mountains just all worked their way. I said, no, those are feathers. Those are not mountains. Those are feathers. Those are feathers. And this was a feathered serpent.
So you think at a time there was massive creatures, and then it didn't last very long. I'm just wondering. I mean, these things are so huge. I guess that's the part of my brain that's just.
Oh, it's an exploder. It's a brain exploder. I mean, who can explain it? I can't explain it. All I can do is see, what did I discover? Once I discovered the giants on my property, and I said, when I went to Yale, I tried to get them to look at it. They said, no, we won't look at it. I said, why not? They said, we just can't look at it. I said, why can't you look at it? Well, it's not DNA tests. It's not. I said, I'll do all that stuff. I did. Had 7 CAT scans, 3 DNA tests. You saw the specimens. I had anatomists, I had chemistry. The process is what's called nucleophilic substitution. And what happens is, in the mud fossils, do you want to see any more of this dragon? His feathers come right off the top of his head, sticking straight up here. You see the feathers? This is exactly what the pictures of Quetzalcoatl look like.
Yeah,
They
the plumed
stick-
serpent, right? And that's what they talk
Yeah,
about.
the plume serpent, exactly. The
Yeah.
plume, that's the plume sticking right up of his head.
Yeah. I mean, I was just saying, Luke, that like I can believe anything. It's just sometimes my brain and my heart are in two different places. The process is putting them together, right? Trying to get them to make sense in the same place. And that's where I'm at. Like I can see the dragon. I can see it with my eyes. Now, how does that make sense in the grand scale?
This is what you call, what do they call it?
Cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, there you go. Cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
I was just debating Bill Nye about that yesterday.
Oh yeah.
He's going on about how you have to be able to accept new information.
Yeah.
And the problem is that these science deniers and all this stuff. And I said, well, what about the dragon and all this stuff? No, there's absolutely nothing. Totally blank silence. They can't accept my stuff. But and my stuff is 100% valid.
So how do you think the giants were there before and after? You said it earlier, the giants were in the earth in those days before and after. So the post-flood giants aren't as big, obviously.
No.
And how do you think they come back around? Did they find places to hide? Was there like UFOs taking them off Earth? I mean, we've heard all kinds of crazy ideas on our
Well,
show.
here's my interpretation. There was gigantic worldwide floods, yes. And there was gigantic worldwide cataclysms of one type or another, but there was not a specific entire world cataclysm because of the nature of the impact. Let me just show you, I'm going to show you something about tendon balls. These are the tendon balls that are in creatures. And every little spot of a tendon has a ton of these balls. They're everywhere. And in your body, there's thousands and thousands of them. And they are all over the world, these tendon balls. And here's one right here. There's one of the tendon balls right there with the strap sticking out. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
That's a tendon ball. Now, in you need a microscope to see that. And they range in all kinds of different sizes. And all they are is these tendon balls, just like this right here. That's what a tendon ball looks like. And they break right at that abrupt transition where the strap comes out. Most of them break there when they break. Some of them still have the strap attached, like I just showed you with this one here, still has the strap. This one down here, no straps yet. No strap, no strap. They're all over the place. And this one here broke from where it would have come down probably to this one down here, or maybe to this one here. But they wither and break. The balls are the tough one. Where do you see this? I discovered interstitium, believe it or not. And it's a brand new organ in the human body. I discovered it. I'm not lying. Here it is. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, interstitium.
Maybe it's worth talking about real quick. Like I've seen people post on some of these channels that they found things that have become petrified that aren't very old, very young, in fact. Things can turn to stone much quicker and faster than they say, obviously.
Oh, yeah, much faster.
So that's the problem, right? So modern science has built this paradigm of billions of years for all this stuff to turn to stone. And yet they found petrified feet in boots and things like that.
I saw that, yeah.
Like how does a foot?
I made stuff. I made mud fossils. It's not hard to do. Very simple.
And does it have anything to do with like something getting struck by lightning or earthquakes or is it pressure? Yeah. What elements have to go right for something to turn into a fossil?
All right. For this particular event where these are mud fossils, you need what's called nucleophilic substitution.
Okay.
And what that is, it's a chemical invasion. Remind me to talk about that in 1 second, but let me show you this. This is the same stuff. You see this right here? This is what I discovered, interstitium, right up here. This is in your body, and they never knew about it because by the time they got him to the autopsy, these fluid-filled bags were flat. My stuff had them still filled up with fluid because they were still alive. And look at this. This is near the ocean. This is eroded interstitium from a gigantic creature.
So that's like basically the skin layer on the top, and then you have these are the fluid-filled sacs on the bottom here.
Exactly.
So that's
Now,
basically like a chunk of skin right there.
Right. This is, well, what it is you have either skin or an organ mucosa or membrane, whatever it is. And then below that membrane, you have all of this gooey stuff. So that
Okay.
you can move around and it can float and gooey around and pull and stretch. And that's the pink collagen. See collagen bundles?
Yeah.
Then you have the little black balls. That's these black balls at the bottom. These are the anchors. They anchor the gooey stuff so that it can stretch around. The fluid-filled bags can give and take so you can move and be gushy. Now, listen to this. This is really important. These brown little things, those are springs. And when I say springs, what they do is they open the bags back up. What's happening now with COVID-19 is the COVID bacteria or virus actually is converting the collagen. You have 28 different collagens that they know of in your body. The springy one here, the brown one, is a fiber. It's fibritic, it's fibrous. The gooey one, the pink one, is a floppy jello. What's happening is this COVID is attacking the spring. So your lungs can't open back up again. It's breaking those springs. And they're getting into your body and collecting in your, they call it COVID toe and all that stuff. That's what's causing the lungs to collapse. But that's how big they get. Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
Here, let me show you. I have a friend that's out in the West Coast. He's got a giant out there, about the same size as the one that I just showed you with the tendon balls. This is the membrane. And that is only one part of the membrane, the lower part of the membrane. That membrane is 6 feet thick. And in us, you could see through it. You see that? This is what a membrane looks like in you and me. And it's so thin that you can literally see through that. Well, this is my buddy Tyson. And this is his membrane out there. And this part right here is only the lower part. Up above, this is a real gooey solution. They call this hydrophilic and hydrophobic. One side rejects water and the other side loves water. And that's what separates your membranes to protect your organs and all these things. His other one, the other top part here, is 6 feet above this. He's got stuff that's absolutely phenomenal. He's got a drone. We've been working on this stuff for a couple of years. And I got a guy on the East Coast that Greg sends me. Well, he sent me a look at the one in the giant dragon. Look at what's coming off of his chin.
Yeah.
Look at here. They have the same thing. And the other one in the desert has the same thing. They have that little whiskery thing. And they're just what it is. And there's this plume coming up. That's it right there. Remember I showed you before? Coming right out of Little Rock.
Well, okay, so let's get back to the blood gushing out of the rocks, because I have something to ask you. And this is a question. Like, for instance, there's a popular supplement that people take around the world called Shilajit. And it's supposedly this dark substance that oozes out of the mountains. And then someone wrote on our channel that is the ancient blood of giants.
100% true.
It's black tar, and it's supposedly like
100% true.
It's the blood of giants.
100% true.
And is that bad to take then? You're ingesting this blood of...
No, you're eating blood from the giants every day. Everything you eat it came from there. Now, here, let me show you an artery.
Okay, all right.
Show you the artery. I'm telling you, it's 100%, no question about it anymore. Anybody that denies it, they're just kidding themselves. Here, let me show you.
Yeah, you're so far down the rabbit hole, it's hard for the rest of us to catch up.
Yeah, they can. It's very hard for somebody that really has a strong attachment to what they were taught and felt like they really knew what they were thinking. You know, I've been doing this 10 years. This is not like, you know, the first few times I started talking about it, my lip was shaking. You know, you get a little scared. People are going to say, this guy, you lock him away. I have no problem understanding that.
I get
And
it.
that was exactly what happened to me, man. All right, look at this. Look at this.
Yeah.
These two guys are looking at this artery coming out, blood gushing out of that artery on the mountain.
I see it.
All right, that's blood gushing out of the artery. Now, I don't know if you guys want to see any pornography. I have some giant porn.
I think Michael Tellinger showed us some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Some phallic rocks and
Giant dongs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You want to see a guy? You want to see a really cool house?
Yep.
Oh no.
Have you seen this house yet?
This reminds me of those locker room jokes, Luke.
Hold on.
Or who knows what's coming. Giant house. I've
Honey,
seen
I'm
that.
home.
Oh my god. Must have been the water must have been cold.
Honey, I'm home. You know, it's just here. I had a buddy of mine. This buddy of mine, I says, you go out and find mud fossils in 15 minutes, and you can. I absolutely guarantee you, pick up a rock, it is a mud fossil. There is nothing but mud fossils. So Phil goes out and he picks up this rock and he hits it with his hammer, and there it is. It's a heart. And there's the blood, and it's still wet inside the rock.
No way.
Wow.
15 minutes he found it.
Look at that.
And so did Tish. Tish went out and found all her stuff within 15 minutes. New species. And I put up a challenge, and nobody's ever been able not to do it.
So what's the weirdest creature you found? What are some of the what are the weirder creatures you find? And
all right, you want to see some? All right, let's start with Kim.
And how it relates to like ancient history and mythology. We were talking about Medusa, Luke, that all these freaky creatures that we haven't talked about on the show and things like that with tons of eyes and snakes coming out of your head. Who knows? Look at that. That's creepy.
This was from a guy named Heath Bowman. Now he sold this, but I guarantee you this was real. This is a real creature. And this is the way the skin, all these little pock marks are from those fleshy areolar tissue places. That's how
if you just squint, it looks like an alien face.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And here it is from the side. Hold on.
This is wild.
Look at this. It's got 2 ears or something up here. Isn't that something?
Wow. That is crazy looking.
This is some wild stuff.
Some blurry creatures out there in the stones, Luke.
Yeah.
Let me show you something else. Now that was let me show you Kim's stuff.
It's not the best episode for listeners because you can't see these photos, but that looked like a alien face with 2 ears.
I'm sorry, say it again.
We're mostly an audio show, so I'm trying to.
Oh, okay. So they won't be able to see this.
Well, if they go to our YouTube or your YouTube, they can.
Yeah, we can post this video, in our video spaces. Absolutely.
Well, at least they'll have the audio. But let me show you. This is a head, and all we can think of is it's a naga. All right. This was a living creature. That was alive, no question about it. I spent a lot of time looking at this.
Wow.
It looks like a statue or a carving.
Let me see.
You can tell the difference between carve marks and
this is the back of the head. It was caved in. Somebody cracked the head, and it's a red-blooded creature. And this hood is part of the creature's head. It's not like a cap or anything. It's part of the head.
Hmm.
And the neck and all that stuff was, well, this is a dark shot of it, but that's the blood vessels that go up through the neck, the vein and artery going up inside. And I worked with her quite a bit on this.
What kind of creature do you think that was?
Wow, it might have been this. The white naga.
Does resemble that in the face.
Yeah, and the hair coming out of the top is right in the, and this one did have hair, it looks like to me.
Some
When
good
I looked
lettuce.
at the,
Some really good lettuce on that snake.
look at this.
Oh,
It did have hair coming out of here, I believe.
so where was this at?
This belongs to Kim, a friend of mine. She wants to sell it, actually, I think.
Dang. So it's like a snake with a like a normal head. This
Yeah,
isn't
now look,
this
see
isn't
here,
carved.
here's the thing. You see this? This is as dry as bone dry, they would call this at this point. All you have to do is put water on these, they rehydrate, and then they come right back to the living condition, basically. That's what mud fossils are. Now, here's where I believe the hair was growing right out of here.
And this is like, these things are get preserved because of the flood, correct? Just want to go back to that. This is what.
Yes, and the other process, Luke, is nucleophilic substitution. And what that means is, as you live and breathe, not a single molecule in your body is stable. Every one of them is in a process of complete destruction. And the only thing that saves it from being destroyed is bacteria and the blood and the transition metals that are in your blood, carrying around oxygen and bringing out the the carbon dioxide, and bringing in glucose and all the different things you need to survive. Because every cell in your body is ready to starve to death if something doesn't, and is ready to be strangled if it does no oxygen comes. So what happens when you die? In a condition where you're exposed to oxygen and outside and the elements, you're just going to deteriorate and rot away. And
yeah,
you know what happens to people. That's what happens to rotting, decaying carcasses that are invaded by bacteria and worms and all that business. Well, in this particular conditions that appeared to have been these boiling waters and long duration flood and special chemistry here and there. And when I say special chemistry here and there, you're going to have kidneys that were the size of states. You're going to have, bile and all kind of acids that will, well, Yellowstone, that's nothing more than a digestive system. And that's why you see all these boiling different colored fluids and so forth. I just did a video on that about the different colors, and they're all from transition metals, which are in your blood. That's why you see all these different colors. You've seen all the different colors of Yellowstone.
Yeah, I've driven through it.
Right, well, let me show you why that happens. It's transition metals. You saw the naga, enough about the naga here. Let me show you transition metals. This is what's in your blood.
Yeah.
They call them transition metals. They're right in the periodic chart. And they have all these +2, +3, all these different oxidation states. That means they can attach and detach from other chemistry. And as they flow through your blood, they pick up carbon dioxide, they deliver oxygen, they pick up all kinds of molecules. That's what their job is. And that's why you see all these different colors in mud fossils. And in certain places, like in opals, you get spectacular colors because they preserved, hold on a second. You see this? Those are those transition metals.
it's wild.
And
It's like a
Look at
stained
that.
glass window.
Yeah, basically, that's what they use, these different molecules that are from the transition metals, which are from blood. And this is a heart, blood. This particular chemistry is. The heartstrings and the ventricle walls want to have this blue color. You know, the aorta and so forth is a brown. And anyway, these are where these transition metals, you can see them there in the blood. So I hope that made some sense to you.
So you're saying Yellowstone, I mean, I've been through Yellowstone. They say that like different types of bacteria is what causes the colors.
No, yeah, that's the key. Let me show you something. I'm going to show you Rainbow River. They have no clue. The reason the bacteria is there is because it lives on that particular type of biology. Yeah. The bacteria loves that biology. Now let me see Rainbow River. And they say they're right. It's bacteria living there, but it's not the bacteria. Well, let me show you. You see this?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's all different bacteria, but it's living on different chemistry.
Looks like a Mario Kart level there.
Yeah, well, they're let me see. Right here it is. This is a better shot. You see it?
It's wild looking.
Look at that.
All right, this is literally an intestine. This was an intestine. And in your intestine, there's thousands of different species of bacteria, just like you're seeing here.
Mm-hmm.
And they live in there and they digest your food for you. They create slime, they create mucus, and they live off and eat the things that are coming through your body to live. And at the same time, they provide you with the nutrients and so forth. That's what probiotics is all about now. This is nothing more than probiotics. This is a microbiome, only it's macro. So they say, oh yeah, well, there's a Clostridium bacterius living there, and right next to it is the Bacillus bisophilus. Well, this is living on red blood. This is living on the black blood. There's two different oxygen levels. And it's fully understand. I fully understand it. All you see, the red and the green and the red. You saw it in the heart, right?
Yeah.
You see the same colors as it was in the heart. Identical. These are the transition metals. And those transition metals are being either exuded or being eaten by these particular types of bacteria. The scientists have everything backwards. They have everything 100% backwards. And I'm not kidding you, 100% backwards. If there's any disease you can think of, and you put it in and say, and and digestive disorders, it'll say, oh yeah, if you have that disease, it causes a certain gut problem. No, it's the other way around. The bacteria in your gut not being able to digest your food correctly causes not having the product to supply you, so your body gets sick. And it's because you've killed some bacteria with antibiotics at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Roger, how many of these, if there's these mud fossils are, across the earth here, and the flood created these, how many of these creatures do you think existed pre-flood? Like, because there's some pretty big, the big plume serpent, the big dragon, the giant.
How many existed?
Yeah, what do you think? Like numbers, if you were to.
Oh, they were everywhere. I don't know. And the ones I showed you aren't even big. Those dragons were small. Those dragons weren't even big. There's one that covers the whole earth. His eyeball is the Gobi Desert. There he is. There's his beard right there.
It's a solid beard.
There's his eyeball. And there is the membrane around his eyeball. And there is where the tear duct is in his eyeball.
Man, it does look like an eye.
It's just, I can't account for this. How the hell are you going to account for this? But I can tell you what, the moons are tendon balls. The moons are tendon balls. We need a microscope to see ours. But the moons in space, they all have names, Tetris and Iapetus, and they are tendon balls. And they were spoken about in the ancient texts. So, I mean, people, it's going to be hard for anybody to get their mind around this. Well, here's Iapetus. All right, remember I showed you how the tendon balls attach? Oh, well, this is Mimas, but they all have the same thing. They have one big giant attachment of the tendon ball. Did you remember me showing you that? I can show it to you again.
I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, that strap would come off like this. And this is exactly all these pocky marks. They're not impacts. Those are they're made that way to anchor inside of a creature. These little pocky marks make it so that it will not pull out of there. These are supposed to be tendon anchors. They're not supposed to pull out.
So were those ejected from a creature when on the Earth, or how do they get out there like that?
I have no idea. Here's another one. There's Tetius. Same thing. Same exact stuff.
Looks like the Death Star.
All right. Now here's Iapetus. It's got the equilateral ridge. You see it? This is a different type of tendon, and there's a whole batch of different types of tendons. Some of them have structures inside them. Some of them look like eggshells. These are all over the earth, everywhere.
Yeah,
Billions.
exactly.
All right. Those are the tendon balls. And some of them come in these like little eggshell looking stuff, and they crack off like I just showed you. There's some more.
Yeah, they're all over.
There's some more coming out of them. That is in skin. That's interstitium. There's some more.
Yeah. I would
There's
explain
some more.
those.
No, those are from the interstitium. When you see them in huge quantities, they're from that like eroded interstitium like we saw before. Sometimes they get colors on them from being next to like a kidney or a liver or something that has a lot of chemistry. These are the ones
looking.
Yeah, these would create chert and the really tough stuff. And then they have a hole in the middle. And then there's other ones that have like a fabric inside of them. Some of them split like this. Some of them have two stalks going in, and some of them only have one. All right, this is the stuff that creates chert in the right conditions. This is at the ocean. See these little blocks? The Chinese made plates out of these, or Japanese, somebody. Chaco Canyon, I think, is one.
I've seen Chaco Canyon. Yeah.
Interesting.
That's a van in a house. These are a bunch of them. Stone balls. There they are up close. And they have this, it depends on what kind, they can all be the same and they can all be different. And what I mean by that is it depends on the chemistry that they were in when they were entombed. Now, I originally thought this was a tendon ball, but it is not. This is a giant eye.
Yeah.
You see how it comes over on the edge and all of this flaky stuff? That's the lenses of the eye.
What do you think that is? A dragon?
It could be a dragon eye, more than likely. Here's a big one. This is the kind that had that stuff in the middle. Now, these are the ones that have a fabric inside of them. These, I think, can actually give and take inside the body. They might have some movability. Most of them did not have any at all. And here's one of those that is eroded away. They thought that somebody chopped steps in there. No, that's just the way it was built. And this one here is
great photos.
Yeah, isn't this something? I've been collecting these for years and years. I got to back my hard drive up. I was going to do it the other day.
Yeah, you don't want to lose these.
What's that?
You don't want to lose these, Roger.
No, I know. These are what you call ligaments. And when there's like two bones stuck to two bones down here. And that's why they have a stalk coming in between them. Somebody cut that though.
That's crazy looking.
I've seen that.
Now,
art,
this,
yeah.
a buddy of mine, Lily Lavender, sent me this. This is just like Iapetus. Remember the one that had the ridge?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's crazy,
same
just
thing.
popping out of the rock right there.
Oh yeah, they're everywhere. There's another one. They got balls in the walls.
Oh, there's a song about that, isn't it?
They call these the Mokey Marbles, and these have that really heavy duty hematite on the outside. It's very tough, and they don't erode away. And you see them in just scads of them here and there. This is in some like cellulite area in the body.
Looks like a giant mushroom.
Yeah, this had a tent. These had straps. The straps eroded, and yet the balls are still there. And that was flesh. This was a tendon ball. Remember the ridge there? There's the ridge.
Oh,
And there's opal in the center. And this, again, it depends on the condition that it was stabilized in. This is another one that had a different type of chemistry. Or there's like probably 500 different types of tendon balls in your body. Here's one they made plates out of. Remember the kids were playing in those ones? They cut them sideways and they made plates out of them. Isn't that cool? Now these, I don't know what about these. These are like seeds or something. I don't know about these at all. These are up in Canada.
Man.
You see these? These are the Interstitium Balls. They call these Mokey Marbles. And these are the, remember I just showed you one that was real black on the outside. It said it was real hematite. That's what this stuff is. And when it erodes, the skin was like, say, a foot or two above this. Okay. And all of these were in that. And then it all just eroded away, turned into mud. You see the mud here on the right? And underneath this is the basement layer of the skin. And then you went into whatever was below that, the muscle or.
So what about the size of human beings then? You know, that's one of my major questions is how do you go from human beings that are giants to our size now? Because I mean, there's, yeah, you said Adam and Eve were much bigger than we think. And what is the logic there?
Well, it's kind of confusing. I got to admit, it's very confusing. But if you follow the biblical texts,
which we do,
you would say that Adam and Eve were created by God for his pleasure, basically, to populate the earth and to be fruitful and multiply and enjoy the gifts of God, basically. There was some really hot looking chicks. And there was 600 watchers who could transform themselves into, well, you see what the angels are coming down. They were pretty macho looking dudes. And they just figured, you know, we're just going to party like hell. Sataniel and his buddies just said, well, let's sign a pact. 200 of us, well, let's just do it. Screw God. You know, we're gods. You know, he's going to be pissed. And I'm not taking it on me myself. So you guys, 200 of you come along with me. We can have a party. We'll just have heaven on earth. So they did. They came down, and their offspring were these mountains. They were literally mountains. But the earth in itself was a product of God. It appears to be created from other gods. Because I go with Zeus. Now, if you go back to Hesiod, he said that Zeus was God. He was the father of all gods. So he was the top god, and there was other gods. And I don't think, do you think there was other gods? Do you dispute that?
I mean, I think that's more of the Greek sort of translation, but I mean, basically the biblical narrative says that Yahweh is the God of gods, the King of kings, the Lord of lords, you know, the God of Israel.
And is there any chance that he could be Zeus?
I think it's the opposite. I think Zeus is Satan, is the prince of darkness, and the pantheon of gods are the Elohim that rebelled.
And that could very well be, because he was out of control.
Yeah,
he was out of control.
A lot more of that ammo than the The King of Kings.
I like that. I agree with that, because if he was a loving God, they loved him on earth, though. Zeus was loved by his followers, and his followers were insane. They were just insane. These were the monsters. These were the cyclopses. These were the dragons and all of these.
Got any evidence of this? Got any evidence of the Cyclops?
Of the Cyclops? Well, pictures, no.
Because they were rumored to have built the megaliths. They were the masons.
They were also fabulous ironsmiths and metal workers. They built the armors. You see what I'm showing you here on the screen?
It's pretty amazing though. With only one eye, you have a real lack of depth perception. So the fact they're able to do 3D stuff is pretty
good focus.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, singularity of focus.
Yeah, you can't miss.
They couldn't look at all the women.
All you can see is one thing at a time.
Right.
They couldn't look at the women. That's the problem. Is everyone else was looking at the ladies and creating problems, and the Cyclops were busy working.
Yeah, there you go.
No cross-eyed there.
You know what it is? What I'm showing you here on the screen. You know what that is?
That looks like a foot.
Yeah. You know where it is?
Bigfoot. Italy?
Nope. Stonehenge.
I've heard about this.
You know what it's called?
No.
The heel stone.
Interesting.
And there's another one that was right next to it.
I've been there.
That is missing. It was called the heel stone twin, and it's gone. So it's something they used it for something, or somebody took it.
I was reading about Stonehenge the other day that it was originally on another mountain and they moved it down there. And it was a healing place.
That's all bullshit. All of that stuff that they talk about, these sarsen stones, they had to go 25 miles away. Every single stone at Stonehenge, 100% are from the giant's body. Somebody built this from a giant's body to memorialize it. And the feet were here, both the feet were here. And then about, 200 meters away, something like that, is the rest of the body. This is not right next to the body. This is way down the road. And that they rebuilt his body where he was.
So there was something about the DNA, Roger. Basically what we've come to is that when you have this human and angelic blood together, these things just didn't stop growing. They kept growing and growing and growing. And it makes me wonder, Luke, of how fast that growth happened. I mean, let's take it from a gardening perspective. You put some seeds in the ground, in a couple of days, you can have a pretty good sized plant. Now, if these giants grew at that kind of rate, say they were born, and the next day they were doubled in size, and the next day they were tripled in size. You think they grew that fast? I mean, I'm riffing here, but I don't think these things could just be on the earth for thousands of years before they got wiped out. There's just no way that a race of beings this big could be sustained. How do they eat? What do they drink? I mean, there's just some wild ideas. Like, I mean, I'm looking at these things and saying, look, there's evidence for this, but it's just, I don't know.
It's mind-boggling. Yeah, there's no question about that. But, the thing is, it's not restricted to Earth. They came from space. Now, I don't know if they were their space brothers. I think they were up there living, and they came back down here every now and then. And let me show you what Comet 67.
Through the doorway, Stargate.
Yeah. What's that?
Maybe through a Stargate or a portal or something?
Well, I don't know, but I can tell you what. This is Comet 67P. This is a tendon ball right here. That's an Achilles tendon. This right here, you see that?
Mm-hmm.
That's a bundle of muscle that went up to the leg. And these are the tendons that ran up the leg of this comet. Now, the astronaut, and do you understand what I'm saying? Do you think that's possible?
I think so. I mean, anything's possible, but what I'm looking at, I can understand that, because where did that matter come from?
All right, it's Comet 67P, and I studied this with the Rosetta mission, and when they went out there, and here is the
Supposedly there was a war before human beings were created.
well, there was a war in the heavens. There was a battle in the heavens, and these are the products of. They're everywhere. This is not just one off. Everything that comes out of space, and I have them right here in my shop, that are they're meteorites that are body parts. No question whatsoever. 100% certain.
The Book of Enoch might be the most logical book there is.
Yeah,
To explain some of these things.
You see all this stuff boiling off here? That is all blood boiling out. And you see them shooting from the sides. It's not just blowing off here. It's boiling out of the blood vessels that fed the tendon that was up here. Now, here they're not boiling out. And they can't understand why. Well, because these are anchors. These are not tendon blood vessels. And this thing is absolutely huge.
I guess Goliath isn't a very fun story after you go down these rabbit holes, huh?
Oh yeah, Goliath isn't like nothing. That's a puppy. And it is. It's hard for the average mind to believe this. Now look at this. You see these little teeth running around here? That's those anchor teeth. This is the artery. That's why it's so big. That huge plume of gases is the artery. These are the little blood vessels that feed up. This thing is bigger. It would crush Raleigh, North Carolina.
Just as long as it's not Nashville, Tennessee, we're good.
Shout out to Raleigh.
Shout out to Raleigh.
There's Raleigh right there.
Oh, dang.
A bad day for Raleigh.
Yeah, it's a bad day for everybody.
Here's the other one. This right here is Omaru or something. And they were talking about, oh, it must be a spaceship. No, it's not. It's a finger. There's the grip skin right there. There's the grip skin of the finger, like the ones I showed you peeling off of my fingers. Right there is what they call an apical tuft. And it runs right down, and the tendons anchor here at the knuckle. And then the other tendons anchor here and come down to here. That's what lets your finger be mobile. This is the vein blood, and this is the artery blood coming up here. That's a finger ripped off of some giant floating through space.
Wow.
Well, that's where my mind is right now, Roger. It's floating through space.
I got to show you one more. If you're getting ready to go, I got to show you one last thing.
Okay.
All right, it's going to hurt your mind. That is a lung that came through space and smelted. It is now iron, because you're in blood is virtually 100% iron.
Yeah.
Ferrous oxides. It's
Unless you're anemic.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah. FeO2 and FeO3. When you boil all the cheap stuff off, you end up with the iron. And this is all boiled out. If you could see down here, you see these little, there's red blood still in here. There's red blood still in here. This could be tested and DNA tested.
You can see all the little like bronchial holes as well, right?
I have a lung here. It's identical to this, but it's not. It didn't come through space. But it's. Let me show you the ones that smelted. That the blood is still in them. You see that? That's smelted. That's a heart. That's a heart. Now they cut it in half and then they etched it with acid. That's why you see all these different. These are the transition metals that are in the heart, etched differently. You see right here? That's the black blood, which is the vein blood. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
That's the red blood. That's a meteorite. And that's because the blood is still inside these things.
Mm-hmm.
And that came through space. And I have ones here. I have lungs that came through space. And I have a fingertip here that came through space. It's about, I don't know, 10 inches long. And that came through space and smelted, not smelted, it boiled out and blew up. Pretty crazy days, my friend.
Crazy, crazy.
It makes you wonder, some of the conversations we've had on our show, Luke, about this ancient war. I could just hear the words of Tim Alvarino saying utter ruin,
Yep.
And,
Oh, there was definitely wars in the heavens. They definitely, everything they said was true. Every
you
single
think all the
word.
rocks on Mars are fossils?
100%.
Wow.
100%. I can show you right now. I have 100% proof of it. You see this?
It's an ancient civilization.
Mitchell has his skull is 100% real. That was a real head. And this is what's called water opal. And I have some here, same thing. You don't see the transition colors, but all of the fibers inside the brain and everything are still here. And you see that the lip and the nose is pushed back. This thing died on its face.
Wow. It's like an ice
Let me show
cube.
you Mars. You want to see Mars? I'm going to show you Mars. And you are going to freak your mind out. All right. Remember I showed you all the little, these are sarcomeres. Remember the sarcomeres? And all the little pieces in between the sarcomere muscles? And that is an artery with all the little artery blood vessels. And that's the vein, where the veins don't have it. The veins just slurp the blood coming back. This is what they call the Mars crab. That is a blood vessel feeding these sarcomeres. All of this red dust is dried blood that came out of the flesh.
The red planet, huh?
It's the red planet because it's all dead, decaying flesh. Now, remember I showed you the interstitium? There they are.
Real blurry.
The Mars blueberries.
No way.
Yep, same stuff. And there, as a matter of fact, I got a mole inside NASA. Sent me some information the other day.
Wow.
That looks like it might be they did find stuff. I could show you if you want to see. Let me show you that. Here's the interstitium. Let me show you some of the interstitium. Morse code. There's the interstitium. Remember I showed you all those balls on straps?
What did the mole send you?
This is called the Morse code. This is huge. This is not tiny. This is where the skin is stretched. You see how they're stretched out? And they would come back. This is where it's scrunched up, a little bit stretched, highly stretched. And at this point, these are basically the blueberries. These are the interstitium balls. The straps erode, and they are eroded from them, and all you have left is the ball. See, these are like those little blueberries. Underneath is a sandy surface, which is the fleshy surface below that is eroded. So now we're seeing interstitium. That's the next level. Now, let me see if I can find this thing from my buddy. Now, check this out. Now, this is NASA's support. Well, I don't know if NASA made this video, but I can tell you what, this is from that rover. When you see it pan this landscape and you understand this, you'll see, look
It's like hieroglyphics.
Watch this. Watch the way it jiggles backward. You see the way it bounces back and forth? That's the way they pan. Look at all that stuff.
They released this to the public?
That's what he told them. Now, this is just a couple days ago. And he said they won't talk about it publicly right now.
It's like freaking
Or he said that, well, I don't know what I don't want to make claims that I can't stand behind. I don't even know if it's real. He doesn't know if it's real either. He said they won't speak about it. But I can tell you what, this is exactly the way they run their camera. It bounces back and forth, focuses in and out exactly this way. And
Yeah,
I've seen a lot of their stuff. They're starting to release a lot of stuff.
It's wild.
This is some more of the same video where they're not picking up any more hieroglyphs.
yeah, it's hard to know because people just add that stuff.
You see the way it bounces like that?
Yeah.
He's got literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these.
Hmm.
This is from November 5th, they put this out.
Interesting.
It comes out over in this area here. You see this? This is all biological. You know, I can't really tell you exactly what it is, but
Well, it takes a long time to learn how to look at rocks and figure out if there's something connected to it, if it's a piece of the human body. And
all of the stuff they brought back from the moon is all biological too, 100%. I looked at those moon rocks. I have the same ones here.
hmm. I love
Yeah,
it.
it is. It's a crazy world, man.
It is.
Thanks, Roger. Appreciate you taking us down this rabbit hole.
Well, I really appreciate it. You said you're going to be, you know what? Let me show you one last thing. Where do you see this? It's funny, this just showed up. This is an ancient map.
Yeah.
And this shows the Mediterranean. You got Spain over here. This is the dragon. And here's his neck is cut right over here in Morocco. Remember I told you his neck was cut?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
This is North Africa. There's the dragon runs across the whole top of North Africa. This map goes back to 1375. And Atlantis was right here. I didn't show you Atlantis. I got to show you that before you leave.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the boats coming into Atlantis.
Where do you get
to
that
drop
map
off
at?
their stuff. And there's a dragon right above Atlantis that was killing the fish. And here's Atlantis. And it's on Herodotus's map too. It's the eye of the Sahara right here. All right, all of these, this boat docks all around here.
Look at that.
You see all the little boat docks? There may even be
circle within the circle, right?
Yeah, there may even be buildings here. These are all the channels coming in with all the little boat docks running up to each one of these was one of the rings. And they all have the same stuff. They all have their own boat docks and channels and so forth. And this was washed over during the battle with the dragon and the fish. And you say, well, Roger, how can you prove that? I said, well, I can't prove it, but I can make a statement that, in my mind, sticks pretty good. This was a giant ocean. And Atlantis owned this ocean. They had the straits. And everybody thought the straits was the straits up here. No, it was the straits of Atlantis. And here it is, right here. There's the Straits of Atlantis. If you want to get into the Atlantic, into the Sahara Ocean, you had to pay Atlantis. They owned this ocean, and they were right here. And then when the fish and the dragon were fighting, I think that's when the eye collapsed. And all of this ran out. You see this here? All ran out right here. Plato said, when this collapse happened, and Atlantis collapsed. So much mud ran, they will never speak of mud again. And that mud ran out here and created the Cape Verde Islands.
Wow.
You see it started to pile up here, and then it just swished around the outside of the pile. They, you know, if you talk to a geologist, you know what he's going to tell you? There was an offshore collapse, created this plain. There's an alluvial plain, they call it out here. They say, well, yeah, that was an offshore collapse. No, there's not offshore. A 5-year-old could tell you that this ran out of here. They play with mud all the time. And that's what happens. That was mud. And that was where the collapse was, right there, right next to the straits. You see the straits was here, and it collapsed right over here. And they're all swished out of there and ran out. And I say it had to happen at the same time because some of this mud has run over the top of the fish. You see it? That looks like mud to me. And it looks like that is, most of it got caught up and swept around the outside of the
world
fish.
Must have been a stinky place back then.
Woo!
Dead fish rotting that size.
Can you imagine?
Roger, that fish is as big as my imagination right now. I don't know what
Are
to
you?
think.
Let me ask you a serious question.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. We've heard some wild things on our show. I mean, I don't know. You learn that you don't know anything, and obviously there's a lot of mysteries. The world's terrain is leaving little clues here and there.
Now, the things that I have just shown you, let me tell you a story about me. Because I'm going to tell you something. Somebody told me to do this, and I'm doing it, and I'm taking it serious that I got to do this, and I got to make these people understand. When I found those giants in my yard, I found them in my yard. I woke up one morning, I said to my wife, I said, there's something in the yard calling my name, something in the woods. I have 10 acres of property. And I said, there's something in the woods calling my name. And I started walking around the woods looking, and boom, giants. I come back to my computer. And I start pumping in, and boom, it pops. I was pumping in giants, looking for giants. And it comes up and it said, I swear to God, and God be my witness, this is a fact. It came up and it said, these things are for you to see and for others as a test. And I said, whoa, I didn't put anything like that in there. No clue why that came up. And I said, that's just insane. And I started to try to figure out where that came from. It never was there. It never came back. So I figured, well, I got so much evidence here. There's no way anybody can deny this. Not one person for 5 years, even my wife, not a person would even talk to me about it. They hated me for this. I really almost lost my marriage, everything. I lost everybody in my life. They just, you know, it was so much of a clash. I wrote a book called Minds in Collision. I told you about Velikovsky's Worlds in Collision. This is my book. Here, look. Minds in Collision.
I love it.
People's minds could not handle it. They cannot handle it. And I told you about Velikovsky. They destroyed him. I wrote this book. I never even told anybody about it. I put it up here for free, really. I was supposed to be for free. They said 99 cents. And this is about it. And I said, I had a dream. There were giants all over the earth. They were as tall as mountains. And then Velikovsky said Jupiter gave birth to Venus. And just like in a normal vaginal way. This is exactly what happened. I wrote this 6-7 years ago. And the great red spot is Jupiter's vagina. That's exactly the size of Venus. And Venus came out, and the afterbirth spewed all kinds of blood on Earth. It really did. And even during the Exodus, this was during the Exodus, it was covered with blood. Then chunks of stones fell all over the Earth, which was the umbilical cord. It's very, very tough and fibrous and hard. First of all, you had the afterbirth blood. Then you had the fibers where the stones fell all over Earth. And then you had the manna, which was the placenta. I'm serious, man. And it said, the giants said that Jupiter, the feared god Jupiter, gave birth to the fiery comet Venus. And that happened 3,500 years ago. There's no Venus before this. And I wrote all this stuff. And I thought, I thought they were going to look into this. Nobody looked into it. I guess maybe you can read it. No, I don't know. But yeah, see, it's supposed to be for nothing. But Velikovsky, he's the guy. Whew. And he was a contemporary of Einstein, and he wrote Worlds in Collision and then 3 or 4 other books. When he wrote Worlds in Collision, the academics were so upset, because he was an academic too. They forced the publisher to withdraw the book and take it off the bookshelves, or they said they will never buy another book from this publisher. So they had to take it off the bookshelves. And then Velikovsky was destroyed, absolutely destroyed. You ever hear of Velikovsky?
Mm-mm.
No. He was the greatest hero of the, the 1900 era. He wrote this in 1950. And I wrote the book so that he won't be forgotten. And he was, you look him up, you're going to find out. And he said the oceans boiled. The Earth was almost hit by this comet, Venus. At that point, it was a comet. And every culture in the world wrote the exact same story. It wasn't just him. So the academics could not accept it because it destroyed evolution. It destroyed virtually everything they said. They became absolutely meaningless at that point.
Yeah. And
now they have shown how meaningless they are. Because now I have evidence that Velikovsky couldn't present. I have the DNA, I have the CAT scans, I have the specimens, I have the global stuff now. We got we can see everything now. There is no hidden anything anymore. So
I love it. Thanks,
it's
Roger.
a whole new world, brother.
Yeah. It is. Well, Roger, we appreciate your time, man. Thanks for coming on and opening our minds here. Yeah.
Well, I got to be honest with you. I'm thrilled to have a chance, and I'm really looking forward to seeing a video that you can get me. I want to put it on my station, my channel.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I'm hoping for the best. I just got an offer to teach a course for I'm not going to say the name, but they have 170 million people that they have as co-conspirators. and they said they will offer my course to all these people.
There you go.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And this one will be about light. The original one. It's you know about my light research? No. Here, let me just give me one more hit, and then I'm going to turn you guys loose.
All right.
All right. We did everything that Fermilab and CERN wants to do, and we did it for $200. Here's what they want to do. They want to see the muon neutrinos and the muons, and then they want to see the electron neutrinos and electron showers. And here they are. The black ball is the muon, the white showers is the electron showers. We did everything that they say can't be done, and they're pissed off as hell. We took red laser, we accelerated it. Light can accelerate very easily. We exploded that light, which is a particle, and there's the particle right there. That's a photon. Nobody else in the world can give you a photon except us. And this is what's called 2p2h particles. Cornell found them back in 2013, and they could never find them again. There's two particles here, the white ones, and two holes. And the only time you can see this is just before it concusses at the venturi and creates cold fusion and fission. This is fission. When particles divide, it's fission. When they come back together, it's fusion. We accelerated the light, and the light energetic value right back here was 1 watt, let's say. The energetic value here is 200 watts. We increased the value of that light 200 times. That's free energy. We can get free energy today.
Wow.
I believe
Today,
that.
we can get
I
free
believe
energy.
that.
I'm not kidding you. All they have to do is put a solar collector plate right there and run some of this back and keep the laser going. That's an increase in energy. This is cold fusion. This is the holy grail of energy. Nobody else in the world can do this. And they refuse to engage. And you know what they told me at Fermilab? We won't speak to you because you're not peer reviewed. And I said, I can accelerate light. I'm showing you right now. I'm showing you light as a particle. I started with light. They can't do this. I crushed them. And we can see that particle actually, here's the particle they want to see right there. And there they are. We split them, we bring them back together. That's cold fusion. This could save the world. Literally, this can save the world. If you can create cold fusion, that means you could power anything anywhere. And this could be handheld, carried around. You wouldn't have to plug it into any grid whatsoever. And this would create so much energy that a shoebox would power a house.
I wish.
Or a car, or a
That'd be
bus,
nice.
or a train, or anything you wanted to do.
They don't want that energy out there.
Doesn't make anybody any money. That's the problem.
Well, we're not going to have a planet very shortly, my friends, because our interaction with the atmosphere and the expansion gases we're putting in our atmosphere we will not last much longer. And I'm talking about a couple of years tops. Tops. And they think 5G is good because we can get fast video games. 5G expands water molecules 1,700 times. That is just as bad as burning coal. No difference whatsoever. And they think it's good for the environment. All we're doing is expanding our gases and forcing our planet to crush into the atmosphere that we are surrounded by, which is all the particles in space. And we're rubbing through them. That's where our global heating is coming from. It has nothing to do with carbon. And here it is right here. And then I'm going to let you go. I know but I'm so happy to have you guys listening. Here it is right here. This is why we are overheating, and they won't speak to me about this either. Oh shit, hold on. There's so many things here going on. Solar. All right, here's what's happening. We're spinning in space. Our atmosphere out here is 2,700 degrees because space is not a vacuum. I showed you particles. Light is particles. Everything that's coming out of here, they're just out there. We just don't see them because they're too small to see. Really, they don't do anything out there other than scrub against our atmosphere. That's where our heat's coming from. 2,700 degrees. So what do? We're burning stuff out here. Instead of having our atmosphere here, it's out here. And it's scrubbing. It's going to be 5,000 degrees out here before long. Because it's just like scrubbing your tires. And if your tires get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're scrubbing from the same distance away from the pavement, you're ripping your tires up. And that's where we're overheating our atmosphere. And they don't understand that. And the same thing with the sun. The sun is 7,000 on its atmosphere. Out in its corona, it's millions of degrees. They have no explanation for that whatsoever. None. So why would it be millions of degrees out here? Oh, well, that's nuclear fusion. Well, why is it 7,000 down here and 1 million out here? Explains to that. Explain. They can't explain it. No clue whatsoever.
Yeah,
They just dismiss and
neither
walk
can
away.
I.
I'm telling you, we are led by the most incompetent people that live. Yeah, I am. I'll with you in a minute. But anyway, that's the state of the nation, my friends.
Well, Roger, we appreciate it, man. We went from giants to outer space. My mind is
Particle
out there.
acceleration. Let's go.
Yeah.
It's one gigantic cobweb. And once you step into it, man, you just bounce from here to there and roll around in it. And you just can't get out of it.
Well, gigantic is the word of the show. Appreciate it so
Well,
much.
I appreciate your time. And like I say, how long do you think it take to get me something that I can put up on my channel?
We'll put something together. I'll try to edit it here. It takes me a while to get the show edited, maybe a couple days.
All right,
And then,
well,
yeah,
get to work.
I will. I appreciate
No,
it.
I love you. Thank you so much, Nate.
Thank
Lou,
you.
Roger.
It's
Yep.
been a real pleasure, my friends. Thank you so much.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it. Yep.
thank you.
Alrighty.
All right, take care. I'm going to cancel out. Roger over.
All right, buddy. Roger
All right,
out.
bye-bye.
Roger.
All right,
Roger,
take care.
Roger.